Linux. And before anything else, let me just say this clearly at the start. Don't call me AI in the comments. I'm a real-time human sharing real opinions, real frustrations, and real experiences with Linux after actually using it, breaking it, fixing it, and sometimes completely regretting my life choices because of it. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk honestly about something most Linux fans don't like to admit. Linux is powerful, flexible, and in many ways better than other operating systems, but it is not perfect. In fact, there are things about Linux that can genuinely make you want to switch back, throw your laptop away, or question why something so advanced still feels so unnecessarily complicated. This is not hate for the sake of hate, this is frustration mixed with love. Because if these problems get fixed, Linux could genuinely dominate everything. The first thing I absolutely hate about Linux is the fragmentation. At first, it sounds like a good thing. You have freedom, choice, control, you can pick any distro you want. Ubuntu, Arch, Fedora, Debian, Mint, and then each of those has spins, forks, and custom builds. Sounds amazing, right? But in reality, it becomes a mess very quickly. Imagine being a new user trying to install software. One guide says use apt, another says DNF, another says pacman, another tells you to compile from source like it's 1995. Even experienced users get annoyed because something that works on one distro doesn't work on another. It creates unnecessary barriers. Instead of focusing on improving the user experience, the ecosystem is split into hundreds of slightly different systems, doing almost the same thing in slightly incompatible ways. The fix here is not to remove choice, but to standardize core things. Package management should be unified or at least simplified at a higher level. Tools like Flatpak and Snap tried to solve this, but even they created another layer of fragmentation. Linux needs a truly universal standard that just works everywhere without confusion. The second thing that really gets on my nerves is software availability and compatibility. Yes, Linux has come a long way, and yes, there are alternatives for most things. But let's be honest, sometimes alternatives are not enough. If someone needs Adobe Photoshop, telling them to use GIMP is not always a solution. If someone relies on specific Windows software for work, Linux becomes a problem instead of a solution. Wine and Proton have improved things a lot, especially for gaming, but it's still not perfect. There are bugs, performance issues, and random crashes that make you feel like you're constantly compromising. The real fix here requires cooperation from major software companies. Linux needs better commercial support, and that won't happen unless the user base grows and the ecosystem becomes more stable. At the same time, Linux developers can improve compatibility layers and make them more seamless so users don't feel like they're using a workaround all the time. The third thing I hate is the learning curve, especially for beginners. People say Linux is easy now, but that's only partially true. Yes, basic tasks like browsing or watching videos are simple, but the moment something breaks, and something will break, you are thrown into the terminal. And the terminal is powerful, but it's also intimidating. New users copy commands from forums without understanding them, which can be dangerous. One wrong command and your system is gone. It creates fear. Compare that to other operating systems where most issues can be fixed through a graphical interface. Linux needs better error handling, better GUI tools, and more user-friendly recovery options. The terminal should be optional, not required for basic troubleshooting. Another thing that drives me crazy is hardware compatibility. This is one of those issues that can completely ruin the Linux experience. You install Linux, everything looks fine, and then suddenly your Wi-Fi doesn't work, your GPU drivers are acting weird, or your touchpad behaves like it has a mind of its own. This happens because hardware manufacturers often prioritize Windows drivers and ignore Linux. As a result, users have to manually install drivers, tweak settings, and search forums for solutions. Sometimes you fix it, sometimes you don't. The fix here again requires industry support. Hardware companies need to take Linux seriously and provide official drivers. On the Linux side, developers can continue improving kernel support and making driver installation easier and more automatic. Then there's the issue of inconsistent user experience. This one is subtle but very important. On Linux, everything depends on your desktop environment. GNOME feels completely different from KDE, which feels different from XFCE, and so on. Settings are in different places, apps behave differently, design philosophies clash, and there is no single consistent experience. For power users, this is great because they can customize everything. But for normal users, it's confusing. It feels like using a different operating system every time you switch environments. Linux needs better design consistency, at least in core interactions, so users don't feel lost when trying something new. Updates are another area where Linux can be both amazing and frustrating. On one hand, you get frequent updates, security patches, and new features. On the other hand, updates can sometimes break things. A simple system update might mess up your drivers, your bootloader, or some critical package. Rolling release distros are especially risky in this regard. You either stay updated and risk instability, or stay stable and miss out on new features. There needs to be a better balance between stability and innovation. Updates should be safer, with better rollback options so users can recover easily if something goes wrong. Documentation is also a mixed bag. Linux has some of the best documentation in the world, but it's often scattered. You might find answers on forums, wikis, Reddit, or random blogs. Some guides are outdated, some assume too much knowledge, and some are just wrong. This creates confusion and wastes time. Linux needs more centralized, beginner-friendly documentation that is regularly updated and easy to follow. Let's talk about gaming for a moment. Yes, Linux gaming has improved massively thanks to Proton and Steam, but it's still not perfect. Anti-cheat systems often don't work. Some games have performance issues and others simply don't run at all. For casual gamers, it might be fine, but for serious gamers, it's still a limitation. The fix here again depends on collaboration between developers, game studios, and platform providers. The progress is promising, but there's still work to do. Another thing that annoys me is the mindset of some parts of the Linux community. Not everyone, but some users act like Linux is perfect and any criticism is invalid. This attitude actually slows down improvement. If people can't openly discuss problems, those problems never get solved. Linux needs more honest conversations, more acceptance of criticism, and more focus on improving the experience for everyone, not just advanced users. Despite all these frustrations, I still use Linux. That says something. Because underneath all these issues, there is something powerful, something flexible, something that feels truly yours. Linux gives you control in a way no other operating system does. But that control comes at a cost, and that cost is complexity, inconsistency, and sometimes frustration. So how do we make Linux better overall? It's not about changing everything, it's about refining what already exists. Standardization without killing choice, better software support, improved hardware compatibility, more user-friendly tools, safer updates, and a more open-minded community. If these things improve, Linux won't just be an alternative, it will be the first choice for everyone. At the end of the day, this is not a hate video, it's a reality check. Linux is amazing, but it's not perfect. And pretending it is perfect won't help anyone. The goal is simple. Identify the problems, talk about them honestly, and work towards fixing them. Because if Linux gets these things right, there's honestly nothing stopping it from taking over completely.